you doing?
Yeah.
Good evening. Linda, could you please give the invocation this evening? Am I on? Are we on?
Okay. Let us bow our heads. Praise the Lord, O my soul. While we live, we will praise the Lord and sing praises to God while we have our being. Father, thank you for our mayor, our city manager, the leaders in this city and this council. They are all leaders and they are all servants, serving the people of this community by making decisions that affect our lives. We come to you with gratitude and thank you for being a God of love who is with us in this very room. You never leave us nor forsake us. Your grace will lead us this evening. We thank you for the calling you have placed on these leaders to be good stewards of the finances and possessions of this city, and to have respect and honor for one another as the business is discussed and decisions are made. We come into this room tonight as complex human beings, carrying burdens, carrying joy and hope, and trusting that you alone can hold us together in your love and peace. Help us trust you more and lean not on our own understanding. Remove all fears, cancel all animosity, and bring your peace as we lean on your everlasting arms to accomplish your purposes for this city and all who dwell here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Linda. Now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Clem,
Here.
Monroe,
Here.
Simmons is absent, Parker,
Here.
Stacy,
Here.
Shadle,
Here.
Sanders,
Here.
and Sellers.
Here.
And if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Sellers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 1 is the approval of the agenda. However, we will be removing item number 10 and moving it to the cow. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Oh.
A motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Could you please note that at 6:02, Alderman Simmons joined the meeting? Item number 2 is the approval from the minutes from the regular meeting on December 16th, 2024. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Clem. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Public comment. We have 2 that are on agenda topics for this evening. Rhonda Scott, if you would like to have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Rhonda Scott. I'd like to comment. I really ask some questions before you consider resolution number 13, which has something to do with police health employment or employment health plan. I read the notes on this, and it was something about some contract had been negotiated, and it wasn't clear. What happened is when I read the memo, I had a whole lot of questions, like, first of all, what do you mean police officers are getting a pension and we're paying for their health insurance? Like, shouldn't they be paying for their health insurance? So I looked at what other cities were doing, and when I looked up Rockford and Chicago, the officers there, if they retire under the age of 55, the city contributes nothing. They are allowed to participate in the city's health care plan, but the officers have to pay out of their own pockets. Then, once they are 55, they have the option of staying in the city plan, and in Rockford, the city contributes 50%, the officer contributes the rest out of their pocket, and in the city of Chicago, the officers are required to contribute 3.5% of their annuity. I'm not sure what that amount is. I'm just passing this information on to you just because the memo It's asking you to approve a resolution, which you probably have no idea what it means. And so I would like for you to ask some questions and find out exactly what are we paying for retired officers' health insurance. Is this a standard? I know most people, the industry standard is when you retire after working at a company for 30 years, you go out and get your own insurance. And you go out and you pay for it with your 401k. You don't have, the company paying for it. So I hate to be negative, but it just seems like we should run a city like a business. We have a business manager. We should be running it like a business. We should be aware of costs. And I would ask for you respectfully to look at the cost of what we're paying and ask some questions, please. Thank you.
Next is Akia Sanders.
How you doing? My name is Akia Sanders. I wanted to speak on item number 5, reappointing Steve Cox. I don't believe he should be reappointed. From November 19th, he actually assisted Wayne Duckman in illegally knocking down one of my residents. From what I understand, not to be even approved by council to get knocked down, and I just don't think he should be reappointed at this time.
Okay, then now we can move on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature and acted as one motion unless a member of the council would like to have something removed for further discussion. Seeing nothing, and we will approve to receive and place on file the minutes from the boards and commission meetings from the Foreign Fire Insurance Board dated October 10th, 2024, the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners from October 25th and 26th, 2024, the Greater Freeport Partnerships Monthly Report dated December 18th, 2024, the National Day of Racial Healing Proclamation, approval of finance bills payable in the total of $4,466,436.46, the approval of payroll for pay period ending December 14th, 2024, in the total of $657,123.22, as well as payroll for December 28th, 2024, in the total of $668,168.88. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Clem. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
and Sanders.
Aye.
The motion is approved, 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 5 is appointments. Could you please read those?
Reappointment of Patrick McDermott to the Board of the Northwest Illinois Enterprise Zone for a 3-year term effective through December 31st, 2027, and the reappointment of Steve Cox to the Board of the Northwest Illinois Enterprise Zone for a 3-year term effective through December 31, 2027.
Thank you. Is there a motion to reappoint these? Yes.
So moved.
I would like to make a motion that we divide these up.
Sure. Okay, so we'll start with the first one, for Patrick McDermott. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This question goes to the community development. Do we know if Mr. McDermott has registered all of his rental properties here in the city of Freeport?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that for you.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
No.
Simmons, Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
No.
Shadle,
Aye.
and Sanders.
No.
We are tied at 4-4. Madam Mayor, what say you?
Aye.
And McDermott is appointed 5-4.
And then next would be the reappointment for Steve Cox. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
The motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Shadle. Discussion? Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that we move this to the next regularly scheduled meeting based on the fact that Mr. Cox is involved in a negotiations and advisement with the current city manager petition that's going around.
What does that have to do with this enterprise zone?
It has everything to do with it, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so that was a motion to move it?
Yes.
Second.
So we have a motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Stacy. Any discussion on moving it to the cow?
I have,
Yeah.
wouldn't we want our attorney on the enterprise zone board? I'm just asking,
Yeah,
because
he's
I don't
sat on
know.
it for many years. There's a wealth of.
I don't know,
the
I'm
enterprise
just trying to
zone.
figure out what is it, why we wouldn't want an attorney, on the enterprise zone. I know we had one complaint, but I still just want to know, is it,
I don't want this to be my second. I'll respond, but I don't want it to be my second.
That's up to you.
Oh, okay. Then I won't, I'm good.
I just want to know.
Madam Mayor, could you repeat what the motion was?
That the appointment of Steve Cox to the enterprise zone be moved to the cow.
No, next regularly scheduled meeting.
January 21st? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion on the moving that, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on moving it to the next meeting, next regularly scheduled meeting?
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
No.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons?
Aye.
Parker?
No.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle?
No.
And Sanders?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will be moved to the January 21st council meeting by a vote of 4 to 3.
Should be 5 to 3.
5 to 3, thank you.
Okay, next is recognition of service awards. Manager Boyer?
I would have to acknowledge the fire chief on this one.
Yes, thank you. So it's my pleasure to introduce firefighter paramedic Kevin Meads. Here we're recognizing his 5-year anniversary with the department. He comes to us from Winnebago, and his hire date was January 13th, 2020. So he's almost 5 years to date. Some of the certifications and documents that he holds in his position is basic firefighter operations, advanced firefighter technician, paramedic, fire service vehicle operator, fire service instructor 1, and then several technical rescue classes consisting of structural collapse, confined space, VMO or vehicle machinery operations, and rope operations and technician level. He's currently a member of the MABUS Technical Rescue Team, meaning he can respond anywhere within the county and also outside the county on special requests through MABUS. He is also a member of the department's TEMS team, the Technical Emergency Paramedics, that also assist with the police department. So, and then lastly, he's currently working on his associate's degree in fire science through Rock Valley College. So with that, I'd like to present Kevin with this certificate of 5 years, and congratulations. I also want to add that half the room here is his family that's come to join him this evening. And we also make the microphone available to him to speak to his family and the viewing audience.
I appreciate the opportunity to work in this city. It's been an awesome experience for me. I've learned so much. I've gotten to meet the wonderful residents of the city and had a good time doing it with all my friends. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 7, which is the second reading of Ordinance 2025-01. Could you please read this?
This was formerly Ordinance 2024-86 from last year, amending airplane hangar fees at Freeport Albertus Airport and adopting revised hangar lease form.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. We've gone over this at several meetings. We're requesting council move forward with the new lease format and the new rental rates for J hangar. So staff requests approval of this at second reading.
Discussion? Alderman Stacy?
I want to be sure. This is talking about 61 hangars?
This is a new lease agreement, and the hangar rate adjustment is for J hangar. So we've recommended no changes at this time except for J hangar to increase that to $800 a month.
Any further discussion? Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, City Manager Boyer, the rates for the hangars that have working water and other amenities, I would call them, I guess,
Toilets.
those hangar prices aren't changing?
Manager Boyer.
We have had the airport manager review all the hangar rates, compared them to other communities of our similar size and traffic, and she has recommended that we do not, right now, our rental rates are in line with other communities of a similar size.
Can you
Alderman Stacy.
tell me who is the owner of Hangar J?
The city of Freeport.
I think she means lessee.
Who's renting it?
Is that
No. There's a tenant in there currently, not from Freeport, but recently was approved to move in there. So council approved the last one. I don't recall it off the top of my head.
Alderman Parker.
Need a motion to approve?
Oh, I don't need it.
Okay.
If discussion is done, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Sellers?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
Monroe?
Aye.
Simmons? Parker?
Aye.
Stacy?
Aye.
Shadle? And Sanders.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Item number 8 is first reading of ordinance 2025-02. Could you please read this?
Ordinance authorizing Northern Illinois Gas Company, doing business as Nicor Gas Company, to construct, operate, and maintain a gas distributing system in and through the city of Freeport.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. About every 50 years, the city has an opportunity to re-enter or renew their enterprise agreement with Nicor Gas. This has recently come up and was negotiated essentially the same terms that we have had in the past. However, we've also negotiated free terms for the Freeport Library. It's one of our larger gas-using facilities, and I think that will save the city somewhere approximately $70,000 a year. Correction, it'll save the library $70,000.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers, to move ordinance 2025-02 on to the next meeting. Is there discussion? We'll move on to item number 9, which is a first reading of ordinance 2025-03. Could you please read this?
This was formerly ordinance 2024-885 from last year, adopting social media policy governing use of city-owned social media accounts.
Thank you. Director Bridge.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. We spoke about this at December's COW. Since 2017, the city has managed social media pages for city postings, information, and more. A social media policy for all staff has been in place to set guidelines for personal use, but has yet to set guidelines for page administrators. In addition, public comment on city pages has been limited since 2017. In order to improve transparency and strengthen the communication pipeline between the city and residents, a revised policy has been created to aid page administrators in allowing comments and fostering a more dynamic environment for social discourse. As the city's statement of purpose in the policy reads, the City of Freeport believes that the use of social media platforms can effectively broaden the reach of government communication to its constituents. The use of social media by the city is to convey or obtain information that is useful to or will further the goals of this local government. The revised policy also outlines important guidelines for page administrators to ensure discourse remains informational and appropriate. This is the first reading tonight, but in the end, we recommend that the council approves this policy.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion. Alderman Sanders?
Do I understand that there's no administrator at this point in time? Is that what you're...
There is an administrator for the city, an administrator for the police, an administrator for the fire and the library, and the communications director, which is myself, also administrates all pages.
So who is supervising that media page?
So the media page that you are probably referring to is Facebook, and the administrator for the city is myself, the communications director.
So you're the sole
I for the
person that
most
is
part,
managing, you're the sole person that is managing
for
that
the most
website?
part, I am the sole person. However, there are other people who have access to it that, in times of need, are able to post.
So how many administrators can you have at one time? Or not at just one at a time, but at the council's discretion, the city's discretion to have privy information to enter into those administrative areas?
I don't think there is a limit that Facebook or Meta puts on their site. However, within this policy, the branch that we are adopting is city manager oversees the administrators. So ultimately, discretion falls on city manager.
City manager?
But that does not mean the city manager posts nor comments on anything.
Okay. I just want to see how is operated and the mission and goals of the website, and what is this protocol. I like to see that because we all need to see the protocol of that website and how it's going to be governed.
And that's an excellent point that you make, and that is exactly what this policy does.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a topic that's come up quite a bit across the country. The Supreme Court, many of you may or may not know, recently ruled on this back in 2024, and it actually would put the city, in my opinion, at greater risk of a lawsuit. Social media itself has tools that have been designed across all platforms to report posts that go against community standards. And I don't believe in a lot of ways this is creating any transparency. In a lot of ways, it's creating a lack of transparency because it allows city officials and staff to block comments that they find divisive based on their viewpoints. It could be religious, it could be social, it could be whatever it might be. But in a general scheme of the First Amendment, we're given those rights to speak out. And the problem is this may be well-intentioned, but in a lot of ways, this is the rabbit hole that once you open it, doesn't get applied appropriately. And with so many people having access to this, the citizens don't know who's blocking them. It could be the city manager who disagrees with somebody who doesn't like what he's doing with the roads. That doesn't mean what they posted was wrong or incorrect or inflammatory or anything else. It just means that they spoke out and they voiced their opinion in a community forum. And I think it's a very, very dangerous path to go down to allow any member of the city staff to block. And, I know the police department does it regularly. They turn off posts. They turn off things. When people would even make comments encouraging them and saying they've done a great job. But as citizens, we've got a responsibility as well. But I think as all of us here on this council and as staff have a responsibility to the citizens to protect their right to speak out in the public forum. And I will say this, the government could completely change and the other party is in power, and the ability to block posts becomes something that now the people that supported it would be against. And I think it's a very dangerous path to take when you start messing with First Amendment, because it is really our ability as citizens to speak out. And we've seen in today, as a matter of fact, the city officials trying to block people from speaking out. And I think that this just gives another avenue for that to happen. I really believe strongly this should not go through. I hope the citizens will call and speak up and say that they feel it shouldn't go through. But our First Amendment here in the United States is the foundation for what all of our society is built on. And if we don't have the ability to speak out, and we have a few people who are trying to control that speech from the government level, that is a horrible, horrible thing.
Director Bridge.
Alderman Monroe, I understand your perspective because we have heard it within City Hall that, hey, we need to be prepared to not use too much of our opinion, right? So I totally understand your perspective. And I won't say that you are entirely wrong. However, this policy does lay out really good guidelines to keep us from having one head of power. We have to understand that posts that attack a person are not going to be blocked because of this policy. We don't have a policy right now. So those comments can get blocked. So technically we are not having good transparency right now. So I understand your perspective. I still would say let's see what this policy can do for us, because I know what goes on at City Hall. We are trying our best to represent the residents of Freeport. Right now, we're not doing that as well as we can be doing if we had this policy in place.
Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, I have an understanding what the Alderman Monroe is saying, and I also feel there's not enough detail, as he is explaining, for transparency. And I think before we initiate any movement on this particular ordinance, that we do a due diligence of evaluation of this particular ordinance, because you're giving some form of speculation, your perspective and opinion. We need to see things that you are actually speaking on in writing. How we look at it from a different viewpoint when it's in writing, and then we can probably move forward, because not only that you're setting up a policy, but you got to remember the public, the council, the administrative staff of this City Hall also have input on certain things and guidelines. So I don't want everything to be narrowed from your perspective and how things should be written and how things should go. So what we're saying is we need more of a dialogue about how you plan to do this operation, and what we can insert with you or not go forward with certain things that you're referring to. In other words, we need to be able to talk on everything even with comments from the general public, we need to be able to bring those things forth. I understand the concerns. There is a big concern here, and let us move cautiously with all of that. Okay.
Just in case you weren't aware, in your packet, there's 7 pages in writing on this policy.
Is
So
it? Okay.
There's 7 pages. Director Bridge?
So I'll say a couple things. Number one, we did talk about this at the committee of the whole. There was no discussion. There was nothing from council members. So if there had been something from council members, and that is not to blame anyone on this floor, but I wish that some discussion would come, and that is why this is a first reading, so that we can have those kinds of talks. Second thing, let me read from Section 3 of the social media policy in case someone doesn't have it in front of them. Social media platforms not only provide the government with a communications venue, but often allow for public comment to be posted to the city's sites. Any comment made by a member of the public as a social media user is that user's opinion only. Publication of the comment does not imply endorsement or agreement by the government, nor reflect the opinions or policies of the government. The following enumerated list of content may not be permitted on the city's social media platforms, and such content is subject to removal and or restriction by the administrator. Content that promotes discrimination, violates a legal ownership interest, such as a copyright or trademark, threatens any person or organization, includes personally identifiable information such as a social security number or other sensitive information, violates any federal, state, or local law, or encourages illegal activity, is obscene, sexual, or pornographic in content and or language, promotes commercial activities not related to government business, is spam or links to malware or viruses, or discloses confidential government information, sensitive information, or personal information relating to government officials and employees or members of the public. And lastly, before I turn it back over, if you are in City Hall walking alongside me, you know what kind of person I am, and I'm not one who makes decisions by myself. Though the communications department is a one-person thing, I do not make decisions by myself. The city manager does not make decisions by himself. He and I do not make decisions by ourselves. It is a team effort here, and that is why this is on the floor before you.
Manager Boyer, did you want to say something?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Any further discussion? Alderman Monroe.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for reading that, Director. You bring up a couple of really good points. I'm going to go through them. Promotes discrimination. Define discrimination for me.
That's a gray area, Mr.
Thank you. Exactly. Part number 6. I think we all know what obscene, sexual, and pornographic content is, but explain to me what that language is.
That's a gray area, Mr. Monroe.
Thank you. Once again, here we are going down a rabbit hole. What you consider to be obscene, what the city manager or the mayor considers obscene, the Supreme Court says is free speech. And those are things that you're taking into your powers as a government official and applying those to individuals in the community. That limits the communication and the ability of those citizens to stand up and voice their opinions about how the city is doing. And this is where it comes. There was recently, within the last 6 months, a gentleman who walked into a city council meeting, started swearing, much like my buddy beside me here did at me a few weeks ago, and he was arrested because the police chief and the sheriff said it's not allowed. Well, guess what happened 2 weeks later? His lawyer and he came back to the room and they served him papers. The city paid $50,000 for violating their constitutional rights. This is where this is going. And the problem is, you want me to trust you. I don't trust people easily because I've seen what's happened with behavior behind closed doors in this building. And all of a sudden, now you're coming here in front of this forum, the people that represent the citizens of Freeport, and you want to take away those people's rights to speak. And that is a major problem anywhere in the United States of America.
Director Bridge?
Only thing I'll say to that is this is not taking away. We are taking away right now. This is adding to what they can say.
If there's no further discussion, move on to the next item. Thank you, Director Bridge. We'll move on to item number 11, which is the adoption of Resolution 2025-02. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving memorandum of understanding with U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs for response to calls for service.
Thank you. Chief Schenberger.
The United States Department of Veterans Affairs operates a facility within the city of Freeport at 750 South Kiwanis Drive. The VA is requesting the city of Freeport to enter in an MOU regarding the response to calls for service at the VA. This MOU will be effective upon signature, and the date will be reviewed every 3 years.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons,
Sorry, aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders is currently absent. The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Item number 12 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-03. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving invoice from Stevers Ford for upfitting for 3 new squad vehicles.
Thank you. Chief Schenberger?
The Freeport Police Department is currently in need of purchasing and replacing 3 squad cars. The squad cars will replace F2, which is a 2021 Dodge Durango with about 75,000 miles, F5, a 2021 Dodge Durango with about 90,000 miles, and F6, a 2022 Ford Explorer with 75,000 miles. All 3 squad cars are currently utilized by the Patrol Division. On December 16th, 2024, the council approved the squad bid submitted by Stivers Ford in Waukee, Iowa at $48,190 for each for 3 2025 Ford Explorer Police Interceptors for a total of $570,000, minus $19,000 to trade in the 4 older squad cars. The total cost to purchase the 3 new squad cars will be $125,570. During subsequent conversations with Stivers Ford, the salesmen agreed to discount the squad cars by $500 each, which ended up being a total of $124,070, which includes the $19,000 deduction for trade-ins. Stivers Ford also submitted a bid to upfit the 3 marked squad cars. Stivers Ford upfitted the squad cars purchased by the police department in 2024, and the work performed was very efficient and high quality. The cost to upfit the 2 Ford Explorers from Dodge Durangos will be $8,375 each. The cost to upfit the 3rd Ford Explorer Police Interceptor will be $7,372. So the total cost to upfit all 3 vehicles will be $148,192. The funding for the 3 new squad cars and upfitting is provided in the fiscal year 2025 Police Department Capital Budget 331-302-7005.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt, Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Parker. Discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Stacy.
Yes, I just have a question, and it maybe was spoken of the first time. I just do not remember. And I would just like to know, why Iowa? Why not our Ford dealership right here in good old Freeport? Couldn't we get the discounts and all the extra right here, you know?
And I would agree with that, but we did post the bid, and we had only 1 full response, and that was from Stivers in Iowa, and we had 1 incomplete response, which was out of Detroit, Michigan.
Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, there are only a few dealerships within say 400 miles of here that sell these type of vehicles. Is that true or not?
Well, I mean, there's probably more dealerships. I don't know. I mean, we've bought them locally before, but like I said, we posted the bid and we only had one complete response, so.
There's no further discussion. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Sellers,
Aye.
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons, Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
and Sanders. The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 13 is the adoption of Resolution 2025-04. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving memorandum of understanding with Fraternal Order of Police regarding post-employment health plan, or PEP.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Madam Mayor.
Chief.
Sure. So before we get into this memo, I just want to clarify something about that was brought up. This is by no means, this is not post-employment health insurance. Once you separate, you don't have health insurance unless you participate in the COBRA. So this is just a savings account, a medical savings account that the city was contributing to. But during the recent negotiations with the FOP, they got rid of the PEP plan. So this is to consider 3 people who had this benefit throughout their entire career. And then during discussions with the union, it was suggested that they would be allowed to have that during this next contract. So in a prior version of the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Freeport and the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council, employees were entitled to a post-employment health plan, a PEP plan, to help fund health insurance costs post-employment. The current CBA between the city and ILFOPLC no longer includes this benefit. At the time the current CBA was negotiated, 3 employees either reached or will reach 20 years of service during the current agreement, qualifying them for the at-retirement portion of the previous PEP provisions. Patrolman Brandy Hilby, she reached 25 years of service in October of 2024. Patrolman Eric Deemer will reach 20 years of service in September of 2025, and Patrolman Tony Bradbury will reach 20 years of service in October of 2027. In recognition of the years of service, the officers, and as part of years of service, the officers, and as part of the agreement, reached with the ILFOPLC, the city desires to extend the specific at-retire provisions from the former Section 11.7 to these 3 officers. So if one of these 3 officers chooses to retire during the current ILFOPLC CBA, the following language will be applicable and honored at the time of retirement. Effective upon the retirement of an officer with 20 or more years of employment with the city shall contribute to the employee's post-employment health plan, health care premium sub-account, an amount equal to $4 for every hour of unused sick time accumulated during the employee's tenure of service, up to a maximum of $5,556.
Is there a motion to adopt?
So move.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Parker. Any discussion on the adoption? Alderman Stacy.
Are you saying that these 3 employees would be the last 3 officers to receive this benefit?
That's correct. And the city was contributing to the PEP plans. That was something that was given up during the negotiations. If you had 10 years or under, the city was contributing 1% of the salary per year to this plan. And if you had more than 10 years, then the city was contributing 1.5%. So that has been given up. The accounts are still there, whatever the officers were able to accumulate throughout their tenure here. It's just an extension to these 3 who could possibly reach the age of retirement during this current contract, because it was something that was afforded to them or offered to them up until this point.
Any other discussion? Alderman Monroe?
So just to be clear, theoretically, there's an amount of cash in these accounts already that's accumulated. So they could already be at the $5,556 or no?
No, I mean, yeah, they would have accounts with money in that the city has contributed to, during the time they've worked here up until this point. That's just the maximum amount. So if they have the maximum amount of sick time and they decide to leave next year, then the city would pay $4 an hour, which would be a max out of $5,556 that would go in that account. So if they had 500 hours of sick time, it would be, significantly less.
Any further discussion? Alderman Stacy?
With what you have said tonight has given me more insight. And I'm using my last question. So I would like to make a motion that we move this to the COW so that we can have a greater understanding and more discussion on this matter, because if they're invested and have been invested, then just maybe they should be acknowledged. But to add something back into a contract that was missed, no, I'm not for that. But according to what you're saying, that's not what's happening. Am I correct?
Yeah, this was brought up during the negotiations. It's just not in the contract.
I make a motion that we move this to the COW for greater discussion.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, so what's on the floor before you is a motion to move this to the COW, which would be next week. Is there any discussion on the movement? Madam Clerk, please take the roll on the, yes.
So are we just trying to get information on, moving it to the COW to get more information on understanding why just these three are getting this, or are we moving it to,
No, it only pertains to these three, to my understanding.
okay.
It only pertains to these three.
Okay, so what are we, I just want to know, what am I going to be looking for? What questions should I ask? Because I don't understand what else we need to.
I don't know, you might have to talk to Chief Schimberger and get that.
But I'm saying I'm okay with it. That's why I'm saying I just want to understand the reasoning for, continuing the conversation on it. I just want to know. That's all I want to know. Do you? I don't know.
Alderman Monroe?
Is it because?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't think any of these officers are retiring in the next 2 weeks. So the delay, I don't think, is a huge deal from that standpoint. Yeah, I've got a few questions myself. I'd like to know how much is in those accounts financially, how much that means. And I had asked that question before this meeting, but never heard back. So I'd at least like to understand that. I mean, we're probably talking a few $100 to $1,000 maybe each, but I mean, that's just a thought.
Oh, okay.
Director Richter, did you have an answer on that?
I do.
Oh, perfect.
So PEP is something that currently all employees get, but it's been, well, with police, it has been negotiated out, but it is up until 10 years, until you work 10 years, you get 1% of your wage. So every payroll, we calculate 1% of your base wage. It doesn't apply to overtime, it's just your base wage, goes into an account. So, for an average employee, it might just be $15 a paycheck. But if you're here for 20 years, if you're here for 30 years, yes, it is substantial. And when I say substantial, it could be $30,000 or something. But you can't use these funds until you separate from the city of Freeport. And they are for medical expenses, is the purpose of the funds. So, yes, they add up. You have to be here a while.
Chief?
Yeah, and I'm sure this is already clear. I know, well, listening to me try to fumble through this. So the only payout is for, let's say someone retires tomorrow and they have 500 hours of sick time. The only payout is $4 an hour for the sick time. So that's what it is. It's not to continue to contribute to it. It's just a payout for the sick time. That's all.
Alderman Clem.
This would primarily be for the chief or Michelle, so basically this is similar to health savings account.
Similar, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so before you is the motion to move this to the next cow next week. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on moving it to the cow?
Sellers,
No.
Clem,
No.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
No.
Stacy,
Aye.
Shadle,
No.
and Sanders.
Aye. I can't believe this, man.
We are tied again, 4-4. Mayor?
I'm not sure what more is going to be learned, but if you want to have more understanding, then let's move it to the cow.
Motion passes 5-4 to move item 13 to the cow.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item number 14, could you please read this?
Discussion and possible action to install a street light at the intersection of Iroquois Street and State Avenue.
Alderman Stacy and Simmons.
Yes. I'm asking the city of Freeport to put a stoplight, a light, at State and Iroquois. This is where a young man was murdered, and it's Shalom Park or picnic area, and it's pitch black.
Yes, it is.
And, you know, we say we want to make a difference in these neighborhoods. We want people to be safe and be better and do better. If something goes down at that spot tonight, there's no way you'll even be able to tell if they're white or black, because the area is dark. And so I am asking the city, we done marched over this, we done had gatherings over this, we done had church outside on the lawn for this. So I'm asking the city to move forward in lightening that area. I don't care if it's a street light, I don't care if it's a private light just over the Shalom Park area. But we need to change that dilemma so that it doesn't happen again. And we need light on that corner.
Alderman Shadle.
There's a street light on the corner there. On the southeast corner, there's a pole. It's got a street light on it.
Alderman Shado, have you driven
I
through
drove
there?
by it tonight.
Okay, was it dark outside?
It had not become lit yet.
Okay, so when you leave here tonight, I'm gonna ask you to please drive through Iroquois all the way up to State, and you will see exactly what I'm speaking of. It's pitch black. Yes, there is a street light across the street, but it's heading toward the Iroquois way, not the State way.
Manager Boyer, is there any way we can put a brighter light in that spot that Alderman Shadle's talking about?
I can go by there tonight and have a look, and yes, we can put a brighter light on the existing pole. I'm sure Mr. Gallrap would be helpful with us on that one. So, yeah, I'm sure we can make that happen.
Alderman Sellers?
I drive that way all the time, but, and I do know there is a light, but I think the problem is not really the light. I think that the trees around there need to be cut back a lot, because those trees cover that light. Because that's the way I go all the time when I'm leaving my family home, and I go there all the time. But it's the trees that need to be cut back because they're too thick around that light.
Okay, Director Duckman, what are the chances of that too happening?
Of trimming back those trees?
Yes.
I'm sure we can ask Pat to cut some trees, right? All right.
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, my concern is it's not the one light that is not illuminating that whole block. That's what we're referring to, is the reason why the request to push trees back. Even if you cut the trees down or cut them back, it's not going to illuminate that whole block, not that one pole. So you need at least 2 poles or 3, maybe, I don't know. But I think it should go all the way to Chicago myself in front of the church. But my thing is, cutting back trees is not going to cause one pole to illuminate that whole block. That's all. That's what I know of.
I will say that as I circle through the 5th Ward, I see a lot of streetlights angled down, not up. And that too makes a difference in how much the area it's able to illuminate. So I'm going to ask that too be taken into consideration. A lot of the lights in 3rd and 5th Ward are angled downward, not upward, where they can illuminate. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, we'll move on to department head reports. Finance?
Nothing this evening.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, can we take action on this? I was
Well, I
hoping.
asked if there was any further discussion, and no one said anything.
I was hoping to take action on this tonight.
Well, I think it was kind of decided that we would task some trees to be removed or trimmed back and a brighter light put in, and let's see how it looks. We can always talk about it once those things are done, if it's not satisfactory.
Okay. I'm not all right with that, but what do I say?
Well, what do you want to do?
Well,
let's take it one step at a time and see how, if it solves the problem. If it doesn't, then let's come back to the board.
Mayor Miller, there's people that know this area. There's people that know the power in the angle of the light and the power in the bulb. And so you already know what it's going to take to lighten up this area and make it better. So that's all I'm asking for. So if people are committing to lighting up that area and making it better, then okay.
George, did you want to say something about that? Okay, Darren?
So George and I can go look at it together. We have no problem adding, additional lighting if it's needed. There's different kinds of lighting. The existing lighting that ComEd utilizes on most of their poles, the new LEDs has a downward sweep on it, right? So we can buy different lights to go on poles if that's the direction of council to try to illuminate it better. And cutting trees is just a function of ordering that to be done. So we can absolutely have that done. If it's not enough, then we can investigate adding another pole to the area, or maybe adding some lighting to the park, although I don't believe it's a city park. But that's something we can investigate too to light up the corner better.
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, in addition to what you're saying, if we're going to look at one area, let us take a survey of all the areas that has that potential problem. And if that is the case, we want to look into those problem areas as well when it comes to lighting any particular area that might be causing a little bit darkness in the community or whatever the case may be. If we can do that, also in addition to what we're doing here on state and
Iroquois?
in Iroquois, I think we'll get a better understanding of what's going on throughout the city itself.
So we discussed this subject, I want to say maybe 6 months ago, and I brought numbers back about it. So we can change lights out in areas. The police chief and I sat down and targeted some areas in town. To replace the lights is roughly probably $500 a fixture plus install to change them out to a brighter fixture, something like you'd see in downtown Freeport. That's not something ComEd can support. That's something that we locally have to do. If we want to add poles and lights and tap those into the electric system, roughly that's going to cost us about $15,000 per pole to add, and that's a cost to the city of Freeport because those pole placements and everything are already all negotiated out. And I've talked to George at length about it. They're more than willing to add them, but that's a bill that we have to sustain. So realistically, when we change from an incandescent fixture, which used a lot more electricity, those had more of a bulb type of a fan light, where the LEDs are more directional because they're way less wattage. So I'm not saying we can't, we just have to have direction. The last time we discussed this, and I could go back and get the date, there was no direction to do anything, so we didn't do anything with it at that time because we can't have ComEd do it and not pay them for the work.
I don't know what the city can do with switching the heads or the light fixtures.
So on the ComEd-owned poles, ComEd has to change the fixtures on ComEd poles. We can buy the lights, and they can do the replacements, but they're their fixtures. They're under their contracts.
Okay, I just don't want this to go another 6 months and don't see nothing happening or nothing done. So I am asking that we move on this now.
Alderman Sellers?
Alderman Stacy, I totally agree with you about lighting, but that is all over Freeport. If you go down to the corner of, Ottawa and Iroquois, it's dark down. You can't hardly see down there. If you ride down Lincoln, it's dark riding down Lincoln. If you ride down, so we need to make it where it's a whole city looking into lighting, not just one area, because to me, the whole city needs more lighting.
I understand what you're saying, Alderman Sellers, but we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. So I brought this tonight. Rachel and I brought this tonight to the council, hoping that we have a beginning of something wonderful and new. But we have to start somewhere.
Darren, do you have any idea how many lights the city has replaced with the brighter LED?
I believe that the only brighter LED lights in town are the ones that the city actually owns and paid for, which are through the downtown loops, because the ones that are outside of downtown are all ComEd owned. They're not directly ours. That being said, if we want to do a light, I'm going to call it a light fixture replacement because it's not something we just change a bulb in. You got to change the whole head unit. Then we need direction on where that money will come from out of the budget, which is fine, and we can move on it. And I would suggest that if we are going to make some changes, then we work off of Chief Schemberger's list of higher area of crime. That's where we kind of started and sort of directed that before, but we got to have a budget to purchase these fixtures out of because it will become our cost.
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, I gather all of that, what you just said, which is a true statement, as I believe it is. But I also want, because my sister Alderman is crying about the scheduling and the planning of this project and how to get it moving, getting it off the ground. So I want Manager Boyer to give us a preview of how this is going to come about and what it's going to cost us and things of this nature, because I'm thinking that his input to when this should be scheduled and done, we should be hearing it from Manager Boyer. That's how we get this thing started. That's what I'm trying to say. She wants to get, Alderman Stacy wants to get it started. I'm quite sure everybody in this room wants to get it started because it's a necessity, and we should not wait. And so I'm asking Manager Boyer if it's possible that he can start this project planning so we can get a big view of how we're going to go about and what it's going to cost us and how we're going to plan it out for the council to understand how we're going to go about it in the community as well. So I think starting this project is definitely something that I feel that should be something you're looking into. You should look into that matter so we can get it started. Because I don't want to hear her say again how to get it started, you know, or what should we be doing? Because to me it looks like or sound like I don't hear no sound. I don't hear the reverberation that's supposed to be going on about, yeah, let's put more lights out there so people are not getting killed, you know, that kind of stuff. And so that's and so we need a plan and strategy, survey, all of the things that is required to make this thing happen. I may not have all the answers right now, but I'm quite sure we all sitting here collectively should be able to come up with a plan.
George, did you want to add to that?
Good evening, George Gallrap, Freeport residents employed by ComEd. So 6 months ago, I did take a tour of the streets that Darren gave me. They are LED lights. Freeport's, I believe, all Freeport lights, incandescent lights have been replaced with LED. Now, maybe not to the standard of the illums that you wanted to have it. So I did give Darren a cost estimate of $500 to replace the lights. We can go back and look at that. Last Thursday, I had a meeting scheduled with your city council, or excuse me, city manager Rob Boyer to drive the area. But unfortunately, I attended the funeral of the state trooper who was killed last week. He's my friend's son. And that's to be rescheduled. I couldn't get it rescheduled today, but I'll call Rob's administrative assistant and make sure that we get that rescheduled, and let's do it the right way the first time. So if somebody else would like to join that tour or make suggestions, that's fine. And like Alderman Sanders said, it's just not one area. I live in Catherine Drive over in Highland Heights along with Alderman Clem, and we have one street light, period. Single street light. The developer traded out with the city 30 years ago that the homes were supposed to have a garage peak light to light the area. Hardly any do. So we'll make sure we include the entire city. But next week, or this week coming up, will be a tour of the Fifth Ward. Any questions?
Alderman Monroe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hey, since you're here, I'll ask you face to face. So northbound on 26 on the east side of the road, there's a pole that was hit by lightning, burned to the ground. The wires are all the way to the ground. Power line appears. I've been asking for over a year to get that fixed. Several people within the city administration, not been fixed. The other, who do we call to notify of street lights that are out? And who's responsible for that?
Pretty easy. It's 1-800 Edison 1. So
1-800 Edison 1.
Yeah, so it's 1-800-334-7661, or you can cheat and call me. A lot quicker if you call me. And the city manager will give you my cell number. Okay? Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, George.
Madam Mayor, I do have a question, not for you, Mr. Gorep. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Floor. Okay, so my question would be for you, Darren, or I'm sorry, Wayne, Darren, whichever one. So trimming the trees, getting a brighter bulb, what is our timeline?
Trimming trees, we can probably get done if the weather holds in the next 5 to 10 days max. Lights, I will have to see if we have anything in the inventory. If we do, we can address that. I don't know if we have any ones that are as bright as Freeport, or as downtown. If not, we can order one. Based on supply, I would think within a couple weeks we could have that light changed out. It's shouldn't be that big a hassle to get done, as long as that's the direction we want to move.
I believe that was clear. That's the direction we want to move, right? Trimming the
Yes, you keep saying that. Why do you keep saying that?
The one at the corner of Iroquois and State is no problem. It's if we want to move further, then we have to have more direction.
Well,
That one is no problem.
until we do the Fifth Ward drive-through with Mr. Gorap, we don't know. Correct?
That's where it comes back to one step at a time.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay, we good? And I believe finance, you said no report? Community development?
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Public works?
Just one thing, we have a water main break on North Galena Avenue by the McDonald's and the Lincoln Mall. We have traffic control set up at this time. Please avoid the area if at all possible till we get the area fixed. I'm not sure if we'll get working on it tomorrow or actually Wednesday. We're trying to pinpoint where the leak is before we start digging the road up.
Thank you. Chief Miller?
No report from fire this evening.
Thank you. Chief Shen?
I have nothing tonight.
Thank you. Library?
Now is the perfect time to sign up for the library's e-newsletter and learn all about our upcoming events, which include our American History Lecture Series, our One Book, One Freeport Community Read, which begins on January 25th. And we are also working on a collaboration with the Greater Freeport Partnership and the Lincoln Douglas Society for a Journey to Freedom, Illinois' Underground Railroad, and it's a museum exhibit.
Thank you. Communication? IT? City manager?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to report on the successful Refresh Freeport endeavor we did this last weekend. We had 83 vehicles come by with over 17 tons of garbage. So that's a victory as far as I'm concerned. The Gills did not anticipate anywhere near that much of a response. So the way we have to look at it is this is garbage that's going to end up in the dump, not on these empty lots. So that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes. Thank you to Gil's disposal. Alderman Sellers?
No, nothing.
Alderman Clem?
A couple things, if I could. First off, we'll have a neighborhood watch on the 28th at Schwartz Chapel. I'll get email out on that. And there's a group of concerned citizens working at the moment with an extra amount of homeless people here in the city. As we know, it's really going to get cold tonight. There's a setup at the church next door all ready to go. The people are looking for somebody to help man it from different churches or different organizations. So if there's anything we can do at all to help with this, you can please get a hold of me and I can pass it on, or there's a number of people that you can get a hold of. But it's really important because they have 10 setups and FACC is overwhelmed at the moment, and it's something we as citizens need to help everybody out with.
Thank you.
My number is, I'll just give it 815-978-0484, and I'll be happy to pass any information on. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm glad we're getting to that water break that's been there for about 3 weeks now. That's important. It's been wet for 3 weeks. And, Never mind. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Simmons
I don't have anything, thank you.
and Alderman Parker.
Nothing tonight.
Alderman State.
Nothing.
Alderman Shadle.
Nothing tonight.
Alderman Sanders.
Nothing.
That leaves us to public comment. We had one that signed in. Micaiah Stacy.
Good evening. I'm here to express my deep concern regarding the events surrounding item number 9, discussing the revisions to Ordinance Chapter 220, Council, Section 220.10, Rules of Council, which was discussed on November 12th. It is a fact that after much conversation, Alderperson Stacy moved and Alderperson Simmons seconded a motion to move this item to December 16th. The motion was carried with full support from 7 alderpersons, including Clem, Simmons, Parker, Stacy, Shadle, Sanders, and Sellers. It appears that the direction given by our elected alderpersons was ignored and not respected, and the item was not placed on the December 16th agenda. The people of Freeport would like to know why. Not only was this a blatant disregard for the council's decision, but it also furthers serious concerns about the transparency and accountability of this administration. I believe the revisions proposed by the current mayor, which seem rooted in inclusion and hate, have been designed to restrict the voice of our elected officials and, by extension, the people of Freeport. The proposal to increase fines and impose more strict rules further diminishes the public's ability to engage in local governance. We expected this mayor to provide some type of explanation for our proposal on December 16th, or did you think we'd forget? The situation needs to be addressed immediately. I urge the mayor, city council, and the city manager to take the necessary steps to uphold the will of the council and ensure that all items are discussed and placed on the agenda according to the proper procedures. The public's trust in this administration has been shaken, and transparency must be restored. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
Branch off what I said earlier. On November 19th, when they thought that they were going to be able to knock my house down, Albers and Sons went in my house, stole a bunch of stuff, created a felony theft, and I'm trying to figure out why they was not arrested. The only thing I could say is that Chief Schenberger told me today that he was going to still look into it. They continue to bring items every time they're spoken to. Even today I got a call. They have 2 of my bounce houses, commercial grade, that they keep getting. I would have been arrested the second that they thought I committed felony theft. I don't know why this is being ignored or being treated as is not important. And then also, I've talked to Mayor Miller, I've talked to Rob Boyer about the direct misconduct that Wayne Duckman has been aiming towards me. He actually said that he was going to knock down everything I own. On the 27th of December, I served him and Steve Cox with a stop demolition order. They tore down my house the same day. The legal is to, if I am filing a legal court proceeding, that my house automatically halt to demolition. He chose to knock it down anyway. And I just don't understand why or who's ignoring what and why is he given so much power to do what he wants. And if it wasn't part of approved on the council matter, it's 402 and 404 East Shawnee that was not approved to get knocked down. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to executive session. Madam Clerk, could you please read that for the record?
We have 2 items tonight pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C11, litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. Pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C21, discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under this act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by Section 2.06.
Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Monroe. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Sellers.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
And Sanders.